What's going on, guys, and welcome to another episode of Loot Chest on Tasty Loot Gaming. In case you don't know, Loot Chest is a show where we talk about a random subject in gaming. My name's Seth.
I'm Chevy.
I'm Cody.
And this Loot Chest, we're going to be talking about a really cool topic that Cody brought up. Soundtracks in gaming. What are our favorite ones? We all three of us have three soundtracks we're going to go off of. These are not necessarily the best soundtracks ever, because we can revisit this topic at some point, but these ones are the ones that came into our mind first. So let's start real fast and get into it.
It's funny because we actually listened to this band earlier, but Max Payne 3, Health.
Good pick. I didn't even think of that one.
Very intense. All the Max Paynes had really good music, but this one took it to a new level because the gameplay, it's a movie. Like, watching Max Payne go through this story, essentially, is just it's intense. So the Health has this driving sound. So every gun battle, every cut scene is driven by the soundtrack, and it's just...
As a person who listened to them before the Max Payne 3 album or the soundtrack came out, it's really cool to see them kind of hit that cinematic sound. That I think they nailed it. Max Payne 3 has this very gritty, drug-riddled, violence, alcoholic tone to it, and Health really brings this hard-punching, really grimy, dirty electronic sound to it that is great. I think there's some really memorable songs in there. You have this really punchy, drivey, just gritty soundtrack.
And actually, when I'm
really
thinking about it, it's like
shooting people.
Because the game is about a dude who's a drug addict, essentially, and he's a lot of problems
with a lot of stuff to atone for from the past.
Yes. It also, the soundtrack builds off that. It's up and down.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So when he's in the height of when he's taking pain pills, trying to get over something, it's music builds off that. When he's coming down, it's very down, but it's so good.
I would go so far as to say that the soundtrack elevates the game further than it already was.
Sure.
And without that soundtrack, I think the game would have been great.
Yeah.
But it really pushes the cinematic aspect of the game that much further, and that's a really good pick, because I did not think of that, and that's a great soundtrack. Any opinions? You have not played Max Payne 3.
I would say this is difficult because I literally know jack squat about this game. So
I'll have to get you to play the game.
It's rocks, right?
Let's go into you. What's your first pick?
I'm going to be predictable, but Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, it's one of the first times I've ever played a game, probably outside of Mario and Sonic, where after playing the game, hearing a song would give me memories of the scenes in which the songs are attached to. Even something as simple as Prelude, it's
that was actually gonna the arpeggios in Prelude is fucking great, or the arpeggio. It's actually gonna be my honorable mention. The thing I was talking about you guys earlier. This is something that we would all agree on. Prelude is such a great fucking song, and it's not even just Final Fantasy VII, but the other games have it as well, I believe.
Final Fantasy is a series.
Yeah. And that song brings, when I hear it, I am taken back to being young again and hearing that song as you're about to play Final Fantasy VII again. It's such a good, hopeful theme for such a dark game. Seriously, I love that song.
And I think something they do very well is a good example, when you're in Midgard and you have the soundtrack and it's super soft and long, notes going. And
I love the subtle songs.
And
when
you
you're
feel that the place sucks.
It's People are in poverty. People are struggling. But the music is still slightly hopeful. It's this slight optimism, and I fucking absolutely.
Well, and then and there's multiple parts, obviously. And the battle music and stuff like that, and then the changes on the bosses, and then the changes on the important bosses. And a great example of that is Sephiroth's tone.
The Sephiroth song, dude.
Oh yeah.
Sephiroth. That's the average children.
Side note, it's actually really funny. It's goes back years ago, but I remember me and you were hanging out at some point. This is really early on, but on my ringtone I had Genova's theme.
Yeah.
And you literally my phone started going off. And then you literally were just held your hand up, and I was like, "What?" And you were like, "Give me a high five." And I was like, "Oh yeah." I was like, "Cause that song to me is just doo 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 doo." I'm like, every song it's intense.
You see the scene again. every
Yeah,
time
no,
you hear a song,
it's
so,
very
yeah.
personal. Like you remember everything. Yeah.
I think there's something about like being young and playing the game and kind of having a shaping your aspect on gaming, especially now at this point where everything's so big and cinematic and kind of shaped the landscape of gaming. That back then it was like one of the first games aside from Metal Gear Solid that really kind of fucking was like, hey, these are fucking games with real stories with real characters and great soundtracks that really just kind of like I said before, if I hear that shit, I don't have to play the game. I just hear it, and I'm like, it brings me back. I love it. It's
It's a
so
soundtrack
nostalgic.
I can go to bed to at night. Like
Absolutely.
play that. And just like,
Absolutely.
Well, and it is one of the first game soundtracks that I have listened to outside of playing
Yeah.
the game.
Yeah.
Because there are very good songs in there that that really are just like really fun to listen to, especially if you have headphones on, being able to hear all the extras in there that you don't hear through your television speakers. So, I mean, there's a reason Nobuo Uematsu has made, probably butchering the name, has made so many soundtracks for them. So,
No, it's great.
yeah.
I don't know who made this soundtrack for my pick, but going off the vein of Square Enix, my first pick is the Chrono Cross soundtrack. This is a soundtrack that has just blown my fucking mind when it came to soundtracks and games. It is fucking gorgeous and hits so many elements musically. It's not a simple soundtrack of just like actiony blah 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 blah, like was it Time Scars of Time or something like that, the intro song. It is amazing. It's fantastic. And one of the songs that always hits me when I think of game soundtracks is the fucking map, the overworld theme, which I believe is called Another World or something like that. There's multiple versions of it. It is fucking beautiful. It is an amazing song. I love listening to it. I listened to it outside of the game multiple times. It is just a well-made piece of musical work, and that whole game has this great, colorful, vibrant theme to it, and the soundtrack supports it so much. I haven't even beaten Chrono Cross. I've barely played it, to be honest.
Yeah, beating it.
The soundtrack, though, is just so fucking gorgeous. It just... I wish more games could have a soundtrack that could elevate it so much as Chrono Cross soundtrack did.
And it's funny you bring that up, because that's actually my top pick.
Really?
That is my favorite soundtrack in video
Okay.
games.
Ever.
So yeah, I love that.
It's
fucking soundtrack.
amazing.
And I've never played Chrono Cross, but I know what you're talking about. Like instantly when you
Really?
said that, I was like, well, I know what you're talking about. Well, I mean, like just the title,
The
and everything,
intricacies
like, yeah.
and like dun 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 dun. It's so fucking good. Speak on it more then, if that's your number one, because we're kind of cutting to the end then with you.
Well, no, the reason is so good is kind of like you said, like the songs are so much more than a video game soundtrack.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, obviously, there's going to be the certain parts of the soundtrack that are designed for like, going through a certain map, so it sounds very video game like still. But even those are pleasant to listen to. But like the town music's the map
Overworld,
music. The intro music and the important scenes in
That
game.
just brings you in too, man. The intro sequence, the visuals are cool. And back then were great looking.
Backed with that CG intro that they had for that, it was like the perfect little mini music video essentially.
It was perfect, and really, man, the music is incredible, and I can hear it in my head right now, and I just love it so much. Still, it still impacts me as a person who has not beaten that game, has barely played it. The soundtrack is so fucking stellar, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I love it. It's definitely one of those things that I can always come back to and listen to.
Absolutely.
And it's weird because I love the Final Fantasy VII one, for example, but like there's no point where I'm listening to Final Fantasy VII's track and I necessarily feel anything other than like getting the scenes back and stuff from it. But like listening to the Chrono Cross soundtrack, I will actually like almost like feel something from it.
Oh, I feel so much from it.
And it's
so much.
I think that's really what makes it like stand out to me, is that besides being a game soundtrack, it affects me personally. So,
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, and you said you haven't really played the game too much, but you know the soundtrack.
But I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so sophisticated of a soundtrack for a game, especially at that time. And it's just fucking, it's a real piece of work. It's amazing. Yeah, let's get into our second picks. Okay, for our second picks, I'm gonna start this one. Fuck, I'm not ready for this. Okay, so this is really hard for me to pick because I originally wanted to pick the franchise in general, but I have to pick one, I'm just gonna do it. Okay, so Metal Gear Solid 2 is one of my favorite soundtracks of all time, and we can revisit this again because 3, 4, all of them are fan-fucking-tastic, but I have to pick 2 because the main theme of Metal Gear Solid 2, as soon as I ever heard it, fucking blew my mind. Pushed the trailer that I watched originally so much further. Showed me how orchestrated video game music could be. Done by Harry Gregson Williams, fucking guy who does big budget AAA movie soundtracks, did this fucking song. It is amazing. And as much as I think the songs in 3 and 4 elevated it even further, this song set the fucking path for where these soundtracks could be, because Metal Gear Solid 1 had the original blueprint for what the theme was, but it was very like 16-bit, 32-bit, like dun 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 dun. But Metal Gear Solid 2, I just remember watching that fucking trailer, man, and hearing that song, and I get chills thinking about it right now. It is so fucking good. It encapsulates everything that's Metal Gear Solid. It is a theme greater than other movie themes. I love it so much, it's stupid. Does anybody have any thoughts on that?
The only thing I really have on this is I like the soundtrack myself as well. Not obviously to the same extent, but the one thing I do like about it is that it is another one of those games where, like, you hear a song, you see a scene in your head. Like,
absolutely.
Very memorable connections with the music and the game itself. I mean, like you said, the theme song, as soon as I hear that, I can hear all the different instruments in my head going and stuff, and I can picture essentially the whole thing. And it comes out so much more, like, almost, I guess, heroic is it
Absolutely, because Solid Snake is the hero of all games and everything ever.
Raiden?
So very big.
Raiden?
Did I say Raiden?
No, I
was like,
Raiden?
No, just a specific last song. Very, very big song. It is
huge.
Yeah.
It's epic. It's big. It's fucking larger than life.
Big game.
And it's more than at the time I thought video games deserved. And like I said, for me, it encapsulates the whole saga of Metal Gear Solid.
Right.
And it's been evolved until 5. And I just love how fucking it's just like, it's big, it's awesome, then it breaks down. You have this like, breakdown, and then this fucking gets really epic at the end. It's just, I remember the trailer so well at the end where fucking Raiden and fucking Snake are like fucking down there with all the fucking rays and shit, and they're fucking got their guns and shit. It's fucking awesome.
Dude,
I love it.
Yeah, bring back the feels.
Yeah,
But it's funny because I remember the soundtrack. That was actually one of the first games I obsessed over beating. I was like, I'm going to beat this game.
Yeah.
It was awesome. That was like beating Metal Gear Solid 1, right? Years had passed, but I was just like, this is the game.
myself. I'm not a huge... I like Metal Gear, but I don't like go on mode.
But I remember the start sequence. Just that weird... I mean, because it just like when the game starts and it's just like press start or whatever, it's just like... It's like this weird... And then, when you push the start button, I was like, oh, it's so iconic. Like, it's just so...
And even
cool.
the whole intro sequence when he's jumping off the bridge and shit,
Yeah.
you have this really cool fucking almost like Michael Mann or even like early Michael Bay, the Rock sequence.
Yeah,
where it's
yeah.
like very... not militaristic, but it's very like espionage-esque, and it's got this cool fucking just like these swells of and shit as things are happening. And even like when you're doing the sequences later with like Fortune, when all the dudes are shooting at it and all the bullets are flying around, you got this really good music. This kind of supports this very military, very serious tone that I fucking love. And the end sequence at the end of the game, has this great theme.
Now that I'm thinking about it, the boss sequences. It's like crazy. It's like, what the hell is going on? Yeah.
And that carried on into the game.
Yeah.
That's why I had to pick this one above the other ones, because the other ones
very different.
Do elevate it, and I think the songs get better throughout the games, but this one set the fucking tone.
Yeah.
For me. So it's almost like the original I have to pick. And it's not the first game, because the first game had great music, but it was not of the same caliber.
Nah.
Right.
And Metal Gear Solid 2 it was definitely being like, this is a different game.
Yeah,
completely.
We're on PS2 now. We're fucking big boys. This is a big
like,
business.
yeah.
Let's fucking make this as big as we can.
Yeah, but soundtrack shows.
What's your second pick?
So this is another difficult one because it was a like, oh, I wish I could pick the whole franchise one, and I thought this was going to be on your list. It still could be. But I'm going to actually go with Silent Hill 2. It was really difficult to pick between that and 4 for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I think at the end of the day, especially I listened to him last night to be sure, as of recording, obviously.
Yeah.
But Silent Hill 2, I think I can listen to outside of the game by itself in its entirety more than I can with 4.
Absolutely.
And it's hard for me to explain. You'll probably put it into words better than me when it comes to the soundtrack. But there is so much of this game being told through this music. I honestly think this game would have a hard time being I guess scary, or even as dark as it would be without this music.
Yeah.
And then even listening to it, even though it's got this weird soothingness to it, it's very still just very dark. So
I have to back off of this subject a little bit because I might have something on my number 3 that I have to talk about. But yeah, I have a major affinity for Akira Yamaoka and the Silent Hill franchise music. The soundtracks are amazing. They go beyond what games should even have because they're so intricate and so different, and even on a musical level, just so out there and cool. They have elements of jazz, blues, rock and roll. This cool vibe in a game where it's supposed to be just scary. You should just have these fucking heart-pounding songs or these fucking just jump scare songs, but you have these fucking just cool vibes going on with this eerie setting. And I think that's one of the bigger reasons. I think it's 50% of why Silent Hill is so iconic, is because you have these amazing visuals that are so dark and so individual, but then you have these music elements that just kind of fucking drive how dark and shitty and bleak things are, but at the same time, in a way, it just kind of drives the story and keeps it going, and even the more industrial tracks into and all of them get fucking crazy intense. Like, just really intense. Silent Hill 2 for me is one of my favorite soundtracks of all time. Not on my list, almost on my list, but I absolutely agree. I absolutely fucking agree. I love Silent Hill. Every Silent Hill soundtrack I've listened to for years without the game. Just listen to, because I'm a huge fan of Akira Yamaoka. So I completely fucking agree.
No, yeah, I was actually going to touch up on, like, and I'm not, like, I haven't listened to it, obviously, to the extent that you guys have, but when you're bringing up, like, when shit is intense, those games, and I remember playing Silent Hill 1, but when shit gets intense, it makes you anxious. Like, your heart is racing. I mean, going back now, and it's obviously not the same because there's newer games that come out and, like, you grow. But I remember playing that game for the first time, and when something crazy happened, it was just like the world is ending, and I'm playing a game in front of a TV.
Well, and the fantastic about that too is you have these hard-hitting industrial-esque fucking songs that are playing, but then when you're in these places of calm, you have this real like just really chill shit, almost like was there really anything that was really happening? Like, what is this all a dream? It really supports that idea of what the fuck is going on,
right?
Because when things are calm, you're like, things are fine, but then you get into these eerie situations and the music supports this sense of unknowing, this mystery, and then you get into the fucking crazy hell type shit, and you have these songs that are just in your fucking face, like, hey, don't think you gotta fucking survive, get the fuck out of this place.
And there's some really crazy sounds in that music too that you just don't hear in other music.
Absolutely. And I think Silent Hill 2 is a great pick also because out of all the soundtracks, which I already said I love, Silent Hill 2 was the first, just like Metal Gear Solid 2, to take what Silent Hill 1 did, which, of course, the main theme of Silent Hill 1 is fucking legendary. I love it. It's one of my favorite songs fucking ever. Silent Hill 2, though, expanded on that to the point where it's this great, fully fleshed out soundtrack that really supports the game and creates the atmosphere that we know as Silent Hill now. I love that soundtrack to death, and it's a really good pick.
Yeah, it's good.
What's your second pick?
This is not going to be a surprise to you guys, but Dark Souls 1.
Oh, dude, the first one.
I almost picked Demon Souls, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, they're all good from Software, doing a good job. But Dark Souls 1 to me is very like I love it so much because I obsess over these games to the point where it's almost like torturing myself.
Yeah.
But Dark Souls 1 was, I remember, it's a specific fight that got me hooked on wanting to listen to more. It was a fight towards the end. Ornstein and Smo. You motherfuckers know what I'm talking about. Horrible fight. You fight two people. It's very intense. That was actually the hardest boss fight I've ever had in a game. I mean, I remember playing it at Keep's house, and I literally would like sit. I got so mad one time. Got so close and I died, and I literally almost wanted to like punch my screen. That was the closest I ever came to breaking my monitor. But it made me come back because that game is a grind, but that's what keeps you coming back. Is how epic it is and the music. Because when you're like, it's almost like as you get the boss down to a certain health, it like elevates, gets higher and higher and higher, and then when you beat it, it's like done.
It's funny because Dark Souls is a really interesting pick and Dark Souls 1 and 2, and especially I would have for me personally picked 2 just because, and for the same reasons I would pick 1 is because they're not soundtracks I could listen to by themselves, but as for the game itself, I think Dark Souls has this great thing where like when you're in so I'm gonna talk about Dark Souls 2 real quick, but like when you're in Majula, there's this very haunting theme. It's very fucking eerie. You're in this town that's desolate, there's no one there, there's just like a couple people there, and the sun's setting on the ocean, and you have this very, very creepy fucking music that's almost like ominous. It's like warning you, hey, when you leave this town, you're fucked. And I love it. It's beautiful. And then like when you're going through it, the game's pretty quiet.
No,
to be honest, there's
Dark
not a
Souls
whole
2 is
lot
very
going
quiet.
on.
Yeah.
But once you get to a boss, all of a sudden this fucking
It's nuts.
orchestrated, crazy fucking choir and orchestra just fucking builds and blows the fuck up, and it just ups your anxiety, or at least for me, just fucking insanely. You're like, holy shit, okay, I have to fight this thing, and now the music's fucking like,
Crazy.
you are going to fucking die.
Yeah. It adds a level of difficulty,
Right.
Yeah,
for sure.
It adds to it, man. It makes it harder.
Especially
'Cause
going
you're
into, and like Dark Souls is one of the best games to do this, is like going into a fight, which Dark Souls, you're going to die. You go into, and that's like learning from it. Like you're not going to go into, I mean, very seldom are you going to go into a boss fight for the first time and just freaking whoop everybody's ass. Like you're going to die
except for
once or twice.
Bloodborne, 4 bosses.
Fucking feather. Fucking Gascoigne, dude.
Fucking, I killed Gascoigne.
That shit took
Gascoigne
me fucking
in one try. Fucking.
I was so pissed when I heard that.
I recorded it.
yeah.
I had to.
But I mean, it's just in those games I mean, that's why it's so kind of quiet. In Dark Souls 2, more is very quiet until you get to the boss. But like,
Definitely.
there's more very eerie music going on through Dark Souls 1. Like it's very like, but it progresses. But that game is it's all about boss fights. So obviously
Definitely.
that's where the money goes.
So where
That's like,
exactly
boom.
that's where the soundtrack's
Yeah.
at, and I actually think it benefits from that. I like that the soundtrack is more quiet and kind of behind the scenes as you're going through the game and fighting all these guys and trying to progress to the boss. But
Right.
once you get to the boss, it's like, here's the payoff, man. You got to fucking beat this guy, otherwise
go.
you're not going anywhere, and you're gonna have to restart.
Yeah, no, that's definitely. I'm essentially going to reiterate what you guys have been saying.
Yeah.
But like the big ones for me, the reason I didn't pick, and I said Demon Souls instead of
Sure.
Dark Souls, but it's because I can't listen to it outside of the game. That's
Sure.
the only
Yeah.
thing. There are some songs I like that I could pick out, but
But
as a
it-
full, it's
absolutely-
definitely meant for the game.
Absolutely,
And it's
fucking adds
completely
the game
great
so
Yeah.
much.
as part of the game. So I do think that's a great pick. I especially love a lot of the operatic stuff they do. It's really,
Oh, dude.
really nice.
Plus the trailers, man. I mean, From
Yeah.
Software is no fucking. They're not new to this. The Armored Core
Armored
fucking
Core,
cinematics are fucking amazing. I wish they would have made a movie. And the soundtracks are always so fucking cool.
It's a big
but
part of the budget.
But with Dark Souls and Demon Souls and Bloodborne, yeah, especially again Dark Souls 2. I'm a huge fan of Dark Souls 2. Fucking the intro sequence is so fucking
Oh,
eerie
yeah.
and creepy, and you go to that
man,
pool and
yeah,
it pulls you
yeah.
in and shit. So fucking
Yeah.
cool. I love it, and I think that the soundtrack, like all these things that we've been talking about, there's a common theme here going, but like this soundtrack really just fucking, it is so much a part of the game as much as the gameplay and the visuals and
absolutely.
everything. It is not. It's not like we need a song that'll work for this. It was fucking. The game was built around the soundtrack,
Yep.
and is a really fucking good pick.
amazing.
Absolutely, yeah. All right, on to our third picks.